Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives.
What would happen if a government controlled not only people's actions, but also their thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and understanding of reality? In the novel 1984, George Orwell presents a dystopian society where the government has nearly complete control over every aspect of life. Citizens are watched 24/7, information is carefully controlled, and even independent thinking is considered dangerous. The novel serves as a powerful warning about what can happen when political power goes unchecked. Although 1984 is a work of fiction, many of its ideas can be connected to real-world governments throughout history and in present day. Some governments have demonstrated similar methods of control, particularly through surveillance, propaganda, restrictions of freedom, emotional influence, and even distraction. This video will examine how the government in 1984 compares to real-world examples, including North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, and aspects of modern society such as the United States, and will explain how these governments reflect Orwell's warning about power and control. In 1984, the nation of Oceania is ruled by a totalitarian government known as the Party, led by the figure of Big Brother. A totalitarian government is one that seeks to control every aspect of public and private life. Unlike other forms of government, it does not allow freedom of thought, expression, or individuality. Instead, it demands complete loyalty and obedience from its citizens. One of the most important methods of control in 1984 is constant surveillance. Citizens are monitored through devices called telescreens, which watch and listen to them at all times. This creates a sense of fear, as people know they can be punished at any moment. As a result, individuals begin to control their own behavior, even when they are alone. Another key method of control is propaganda. The party constantly spreads messages that support its authority and discourage independent thinking. Slogans such as "War is peace" and "Freedom is slavery" confuse citizens and make it difficult to question the government. The party also controls information by rewriting history. Records are changed so that the government is always seen as correct. This prevents people from comparing the past to the present, making it easier to maintain control. Over time, this weakens people's trust in their own memory and forces them to rely on the party for truth. Perhaps the most extreme form of control is the concept of a thought crime. In Oceania, even thinking against the government is illegal. This shows that the party's power goes beyond actions and extends into the human mind itself. In addition, the party controls emotions. Through events like the 2-minute hate, citizens are encouraged to feel anger toward enemies and loyalty towards Big Brother. By controlling fear, love, and hatred, the party is able to influence how people think and behave. While party members are strictly controlled, another group, known as the proles, experiences a different form of control. The proles are given more freedom, but they are kept distracted with simple pleasures such as gambling, alcohol, work, and entertainment. They are not heavily monitored because they are not seen as a threat. Instead of being controlled through fear, they are controlled through distraction. This idea is similar to Society in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, where people are controlled through constant pleasure and entertainment rather than force. This concept can also be connected to modern society. Today, distractions such as social media, texting, emojis, and platforms like Instagram take up a large amount of people's time and attention. Many people focus on entertainment, appearance, or daily routines rather than questioning larger issues. In this way, the idea of the proles becomes more relevant. Control does not always come from strict rules or punishment, but can also come from keeping people distracted. North Korea is one of the most well-known modern examples of a totalitarian government, and it shares many similarities with the society described in 1984. In North Korea, the government strictly controls access to information. Citizens do not have free access to the internet, and all media is carefully monitored and approved by the state. This limits people's understanding of the outside world and prevents them from questioning their government. There is also a strong cult of personality surrounding the country's leader. Citizens are expected to show loyalty and admiration at all times. Images and messages praising the leader are displayed throughout the country, similar to how Big Brother is constantly present in 1984. Surveillance and control are also important features of life in North Korea. Citizens are encouraged to report suspicious behavior, and punishment for disloyalty can be severe. This creates an atmosphere of fear where people are cautious about what they say and do. These conditions reflect many of the same ideas seen in 1984, including limited freedom, constant monitoring, emotional influence, and the expectation of complete obedience to authority. Syria provides an example of an authoritarian government that shares some similarities with the system described in 1984, although it is not fully totalitarian. An authoritarian government maintains strong control over political powers, but may not control every aspect of daily life to the same extent as a totalitarian system. However, it still limits freedom and restricts rebellion. In Syria, the government has been known to restrict freedom of speech and limit political opposition. Individuals who criticize the government may face consequences, including arrest or punishment. During periods of conflict, the government has used surveillance and military force to maintain control over the population. This demonstrates how authority can be enforced through being both monitoring and physical power, as well as fear. While Syria does not control thought and information as completely as the government in 1984, it still reflects the idea that the government can maintain control by limiting freedoms and discouraging dissent. Venezuela is another example of an authoritarian government that can be connected to the themes presented in 1984. In recent years, the Venezuelan government has faced criticism for limiting opposition and influencing media coverage. This can affect how information is presented to the public and may shape public opinion in ways that benefit those in power. Economic instability has played a role in the country's political situation. Shortages of basic goods and resources can make it difficult for citizens to focus on political issues, as their attention is directed toward meeting their basic needs. Control over information, even if not absolute, can still influence how people understand their situation. This reflects one of the key ideas in 1984, which is that controlling information can shape reality itself. The United States is a democratic government based on freedoms such as speech, press, and access to information. Unlike the society in 1984, citizens are legally protected from extreme government control over their thoughts and beliefs. However, some aspects of modern society still connect to Orwell's ideas. Surveillance programs, such as those revealed by Edward Snowden, have raised questions about privacy and how much monitoring is appropriate. In addition, the spread of misinformation and biased media can influence how people understand events and form opinions. While this is not controlled in the same way as in 1984, it shows that information can still shape perception. Distraction also plays a role. Entertainment, social media, and constant digital communication can take up a large amount of attention, making it easier to ignore complex or important issues. This shows that even in a democratic society, some of the concerns raised in 1984, especially information, attention, and perception, are still relevant. Across all these examples, many similarities can be identified. First, controlling information is a major factor. In all of these examples, access to information is limited or influenced in some way, which affects how people understand reality and what they believe to be true. Second, the use of fear and emotional pressure is important in maintaining control. Whether through surveillance, punishment, or social consequences, individuals may feel discouraged from speaking out, leading them to regulate their own behavior and even their thoughts. Third, propaganda plays a significant role. Governments can shape not only what people think, but also how they feel, encouraging loyalty, fear, or anger in ways that strengthen their authority. Finally, distraction can also act as a form of control. In 1984, the proles are kept occupied with entertainment, work, and everyday concerns, preventing deeper thinking. Similarly, in modern society, constant distractions can limit how much attention people give to important issues. However, there are also differences. The government in 1984 represents an extreme version of total control, where even thoughts are regulated. Most real-world governments do not reach this level, but they may still display certain similar characteristics. In conclusion, 1984 provides a powerful warning about the dangers of governments that seek to control too much of people's lives. Examples such as North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, and even aspects of modern democratic societies show that while governments vary in their level of control, many still reflect elements of Orwell's ideas. These include control of information, restriction of freedom, emotional influence, and the use of distraction. By examining these connections, it becomes clear that the themes in 1984 are not limited to fiction. Instead, they remain relevant in understanding how governments operate and how power can be used. Ultimately, 1984 reminds us that freedom of thought, Access to information and the ability to question authority are essential to a functioning society. Without these freedoms, the line between truth and control can begin to blur. But sometimes, control is maintained, not just through fear, but through distraction.